She met his gaze, her pulse quickening as he shifted closer. The distance between them pulsed with unspoken words and half-formed dreams. "You mean I need to decide," she countered, trying to draw strength from the steel in her tone, but faltering under the weight of his unwavering stare. Akil's brow furrowed, frustration spilling into his voice. "You're the one caught in between, love. This is your life they're threatening. My world shouldn't come at a cost to you." "Don't act like you're not part of this." Bria shot back, the passion in her voice surprising even herself. The air thickened with tension as they stood mere inches apart, their shared electricity charging the moment. "You orchestrated the job that put me in this position." Silence spilled between them, heavy and unsettling. She could feel the grains of doubt gnawing at her confidence. But something flickered in Akil's gaze, something raw and tender, fueling an unyielding desire. He stepped forward, his warmth brushing against her skin. "I did that for you," he murmured, an intensity lacing his words. "I thought you'd want the chance to prove who you are." "By lying to me?" she replied, every word like shards of glass spilling from her lips. She took a step back, bracing herself against the cold edge of the desk. "You didn't think I could handle the truth?" Akil held her gaze, his presence grounding her amidst the storm. "You weren't supposed to get hurt. You're stronger than I ever anticipated, Bria. But this is a world filled with sharks, and I thought you deserved the first bite." Even as heat built between them, Bria felt a rush of uncertainty. The idea of loyalty, whatever it meant now, hung like mist in the air, swirling around them like the tempest outside. She clenched her fist, wrestling with the ferocity of her own emotions. "Is that what I am to you? A pawn in a game?" she whispered, broken yet fierce. "There's so much more at stake here than just us." Akil stepped closer, his voice lowering as his hand reached out, fingers brushing gently against her knuckles. A surge of electricity coursed through her, igniting a fire within she hadn't known existed. "But you know I need you, Bria. We are stronger together." The intensity of his touch sent goosebumps spiraling across her skin. For a heartbeat, the world outside faded away, leaving only the intoxicating warmth between them. And then something shifted in the space between them, a palpable, undeniable draw. Bria leaned forward instinctively, the scent of him wrapped around her like a promise of safety and peril intertwined. The gentle curve of his smile disarmed her, his eyes shining with a fierce yearning that mirrored her own. "Maybe I don't want your world," she murmured, edging closer still, her heart pounding. "Maybe I just want you." Akil's breath hitched, warmth radiating from him as he lowered his head, closing the distance. Their lips brushed together, soft and hesitant, like a whisper of what could be. The kiss surged with pent-up emotion, flourishing into something deeply passionate as he enveloped her in his arms, making the storm outside seem trivial. For a moment, Bria forgot the chaos enveloping her life. The threats, the decisions hung like a shadow over her. As they fell deeper into each other, everything else faded, the clamor, the storm, and the noise of the past. But beyond the passion lay the poignant anxiety of love, mingled with uncertainty, loyalty teetering on a knife's edge. In that charged moment, the world spun away, and amidst the chaos swirling outside, they found a fragment of calm, a sliver of connection where hearts spoke louder than words. "Promise me you'll choose wisely," Akil whispered, pulling back just enough to catch her eye. "Your life hangs in the balance." Bria nodded, the weight of his words as heavy as the storm outside. "As do my feelings for you." Scene 95, a moment of clarity. The storm had settled into a rhythmic patter against the windows, a soft cascade of rain that drummed like an echo of distant heartbeats. In a quiet corner of Akil's modest yet elegantly disheveled apartment, the scent of fresh coffee clung in the air, mingling with the warm notes of vanilla and hazelnut from an unfinished candle flickering softly on the table. Bria stood by the window, tracing the raindrops with her fingers, lost in thought as they spiderwebbed down the glass. Akil leaned against the kitchen island, his posture relaxed yet alert, watching her. He sipped his coffee slowly, letting the warmth sink into him. There was a vulnerability in Bria's profile, the way her brow furrowed slightly as she peered through the rain-soaked glass, searching for something just beyond the storm. "Thinking about home?" he asked, breaking the silence. Bria turned her head slightly, enough for him to catch the glimmer of uncertainty in her eyes. "Not exactly," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Just the world outside." She shifted her gaze back to the rain, contemplative. "It's strange, isn't it? How everything can feel so far away when you're right here?" The air thickened with tension, the silence stretching between them laden with unspoken words. Akil set his cup down, a soft clink echoing in the stillness. "It's easy to get lost, Bria. In all of this," he gestured around, but it was more than the apartment. It signified everything they were navigating together. "And sometimes we need to face it, whatever it is." His voice softened, the edges of it fraying in the intimacy of the moment. She turned fully to him, a flicker of boldness igniting behind her uncertainty. "Are we really facing it, Akil? Or are we just playing pretend, like we can ignore the reality waiting just outside that door?" He stepped closer, closing the distance between them, his brow creasing with concern. "Reality is messy, Bria, but we can't shy away from it, not if we want to move forward." Silence settled again, a companionable yet charged space that buzzed with the electricity of their unresolved tension. Bria crossed her arms, the warmth from their recent fight still simmering beneath the surface. "You're right, but it's all so complicated. Every choice feels heavy with consequences I don't want to bear. What if we break everything in the process?" Akil's gaze softened, the flickering flame of the candle casting dancing shadows across his features. "Sometimes breaking something can lead to something new, something better." He paused, feeling the weight of his words. "But it's terrifying. I know that better than anyone." The quiet atmosphere shifted, the vulnerability held within it was palpable. Bria took a step closer, an invitation hung in the air. "What if we don't have a map? What if we just trust each other?" "Then," he replied, his voice low and sincere, "we'll navigate together, complications, fears, and all." He reached out tentatively, brushing a thumb across her arm, igniting a trail of warmth that lingered. Their eyes locked, and in that moment, the storm outside became a mere whisper, eclipsed by the tempest brewing between them. Do you trust me, Akil?" she asked, but there was an unspoken layer beneath her words, a hint of something deeper. "More than anyone," he murmured, the sincerity resonating through the air like a vow. His eyes flickered with intensity, and the atmosphere thickened, electric and fragile, as if the world held its breath. "Then let's not waste this moment." Bria stepped even closer, the tension palpable, memories of past arguments fading into the background. The rhythm of the rain echoed against their stuttered breaths as their bodies drew closer, pulse quickening. "Let's just let it all go for a second." Akil tilted his head, letting the weight of the moment pull him closer. "Just a second," he echoed, forgetting the chaos outside, the uncertainties that loomed. This moment was theirs, framed by the flickering candlelight and the cleansing rain. As they stood on the precipice of something profound, the warmth flowed between them, a merging of fears and hopes. For now, it was enough to lean into the storm together, sharing a tether woven from whispered promises and fragile trust. "Let's be brave," Bria whispered, a hint of laughter threading through her voice, as if recognizing the absurdity of their choices. "Bravery has its own thrills," he replied, a playful glint in his eyes, both aware of the battle ahead, but for this fleeting moment, savoring the soft intimacy that lingered, the warmth, the promise of possibilities, and the taste of hope. Scene 96, Confronting Alliances. The dimly lit room buzzed with tension, a sharp contrast to Bria's racing heart as she stared out the rain-smeared window, the storm outside mirroring the turmoil within. Akil's deep voice broke through her thoughts, slicing through the thick atmosphere like a knife. "You think you can just walk in here and tell me everything will be fine?" His tone was low, measured, but the undercurrent of frustration twisted in her gut. Bria turned, the weight of uncertainty pressing against her chest. "I thought we were past this." Her voice was steadier than she felt, a flicker of defiance igniting alongside her worry. "You can't keep holding everything over my head. I deserve truth, Akil." He stepped closer, the intensity of his presence filling every crevice of the room, like a storm cloud ready to burst. Those dark eyes held a blend of emotions that made her ache with the confusion of desire and danger. "And I deserve your trust. How can you trust me when you're still keeping secrets of your own?" "You think I'm not scared? Every time I look at you, I keep wondering if I'm a pawn in your game, just like everyone else. Bria shot back, her fists clenched. The vulnerability beneath her anger seeped through, a crack in her armor. What if it's all an illusion? Look at me. Akil pushed a hand through his hair, exasperation tinged with earnestness. I want you to see the truth, Bria. I didn't ask for any of this either. He hesitated, a brief glimpse of something raw surfacing in his expression. But I won't lose you to fear. The door flew open, and their discussion was interrupted by a sudden intrusion from Jalen and Alana, their energy spilling into the room like sunlight after a storm. Well, 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 what's all this melodrama? Jalen smirked, cocking an eyebrow, just as Alana rolled her eyes. Should we start charging for front row seats? Alana quipped, hands on her hips, casting a disapproving glance between the two. Bria huffed in annoyance, the bubble of indignation rising again. Not now, Jalen. Can it wait for a bit? Akil chimed in, his tone cutting through the levity. We're not in the mood for your banter. Jalen's expression shifted from playful to serious in an instant, the gravity of their situation settling around them like a weighted blanket. But we need to talk. It's about Marcus. He's flipped, everyone's got eyes on you both. The syndicate smells blood. The storm isn't just outside, Alana added, crossing her arms. You two need to figure out who's on your side. Old alliances are made for breaking. You can't trust anyone. You're not wrong, Akil replied, pacing the floorboards, his footsteps echoing like a distant war drum. He stopped directly in front of Bria, the space between them charged with a mix of unresolved tension and palpable yearning. What if I've underestimated the people we consider allies? What if it's only a matter of time before someone makes their move? Bria sensed his vulnerability, the shield he wore slipping for just a moment. Or maybe we're stronger together. She softened, stepping closer, her hand brushing against his arm. What if we build new alliances starting now? Their shared breath hung in the air, suspended in the current of emotions swirling between them. In the distance, thunder rumbled ominously as the storm unleashed itself, rain battering against the window like a steady heartbeat. Despite the chaos outside, there was a stillness within this moment, an unspoken understanding passing between them. But just as their gaze locked, the shrill sound of a phone blaring shattered the tense silence. Bria jumped, startled, breaking the spell that had almost enveloped them. She reached for her phone, her heart racing anew as a number flashed on the screen, a contact she hadn't expected. Don't answer that. Akil's command was low, almost a growl, but it could be. I said don't. His voice was firm, yet a glimmer of concern flickered through. This will decide who walks away from this alive, Akil. Trust me. Bria's resolve hardened. As she glanced back at the others, determination set her features, demonstrating to everyone present that she wasn't about to back down now. Let's just hope we've cleared the air before the storm hits, Jalen added, leaning against the wall, sensing the electricity between Bria and Akil. And in that moment, in the eye of the storm of emotions and alliances, Bria realized that trust would not just be given. It must be forged anew in the fierce fires of chaos. This was where their new reality began. Together, then, Bria's voice broke the thick tension, a fragile truce hanging in the space between them. Together, Akil affirmed, his gaze unwavering, the weight of their unsteady journey ahead, resting heavily but beautifully within those two simple words. Scene 97, The Descent. The storm outside crashed with an unruly ferocity, sheets of rain stabbing the earth like 1,000 blades. Inside the dimly lit loft, Bria Finch stood by the sprawling window, her face illuminated by the flickering light of the city that lay below. Shadows danced around her, merging with the swirling clouds above, as if the very essence of chaos seeped through the cracks. The air carried a heavy electric charge, mirroring the turmoil within her. Akil Amari leaned against the far wall, arms crossed, his eyes fixed on her. They were separated by more than just space. An invisible barrier was forged from secrets and heated emotions. Her heart raced, each beat a reminder of the fierce connection that thrummed between them, yet the weight of his hidden truths pressed down like a thick fog. It's not going to let up, is it? Bria said, her voice steady, even though her insides felt like a storm themselves. She turned her focus from the chaos outside to the calm resolve of Akil, his eyes swirling with their own tempest. Akil shrugged, a casual facade masking a storm brewing beneath. It never does when you need it to. His playful smirk faltered, revealing the seriousness behind his tone, a subtle fissure in his otherwise impenetrable armor. The seconds stretched out, punctuated only by the distant rumble of thunder. Bria could feel it, the almost tangible hum of unspoken desires, intertwined with layers of betrayal. She took a step toward him, defiance mingling with uncertainty. Did you ever think about the choices we make, Akil? About where they lead us? Every choice has consequences, he replied, the edge of his voice sharper than a knife. But those consequences often lead to unforgettable moments. She met his gaze squarely, feeling the pull of their history like gravity at work, each memory a thread weaving them together. Is that what this is to you? An unforgettable moment? He pushed himself off the wall and stepped closer, eyes narrowed in focus. You know it isn't just that. What we have is deeper. You know me. You'd know if I was lying. The sincerity in his voice sent a wave of warmth bolting through her, though she felt the chill of doubt settling in her bones. And yet, Bria's voice softened, trembling on the brink of vulnerability. You still keep parts of yourself from me. The truth is a two-edged sword, you know? Sometimes it cuts. He reached out, his fingertips brushing against her arm, so light that it felt like the whisper of a butterfly's wing. His touch sent shivers cascading down her spine, igniting a longing that warred against her sense of self-preservation. What I do is complicated. It isn't a fairy tale. It's dangerous, she finished for him, swallowing hard against the truth of it all. What we're in, it's like dancing on a minefield. One wrong step and everything blows up. Akil inhaled sharply, wings of ferocity flaring in his expression. You think I wanted this life? The lurking danger? The inevitability of conflict spiraling out of control? I meant to protect you. Protect? Laughter erupted from her, a fragile shield against her rising fears. You think keeping me in the dark is protection? Is that what love looks like to you? In the silence that followed, the tension wrapped itself around them, suffocating yet electric. Bria could feel her heart hammering, caught in the relentless riptide of their emotions. Akil's gaze flickered away momentarily, revealing a glimpse of inner turmoil. You don't understand. I might not understand your world, but I understand how I feel, she interjected fiercely, her voice cutting through the air like a sword. Every time I close my eyes, I feel you, Akil. You are so present, yet so far away. I can't navigate this without knowing the truth. Maybe not knowing is easier, he muttered, frustration dripping from each word. Easier for whom? Bria shot back, daring him to meet her gaze. For you? Because it sure as hell isn't easy for me. He stepped closer, the heat radiating from him, a stark contrast to the cold shadows enveloping them. You can hate me if you want, but we're in this together, whether you realize it or not. The words hung between them, layered with the potential for both destruction and salvation. Bria shifted, then leaned in as if propelled by an invisible force, an undeniable gravitational pull that neither could resist. Together, she whispered, the word heavy with promise, yet fraught with lingering doubts. Together, he echoed, his breath suddenly shallow, as if acknowledging the breadth of the abyss that lay ahead. In that fleeting moment, caught in the tempest's eye, they held each other's gaze, a shared understanding igniting in the air, an understanding that real love is never without its storms. Scene 98, the final countdown. A storm loomed over the sprawling city. Clouds rumbled with anticipation, mirroring the chaos that brewed in Bria Finch's heart. The dim light of the room caught the tension woven into her tousled hair, plucked and pinned back hastily, yet still falling charmingly into her face. She stood by the ornate window, tracing raindrop patterns with steady fingers, her mind racing. The sound of thunder rumbled like the impending confrontation that awaited her, the weight of secrets clinging heavier than humidity in the air. Bria, you ready for this? Akil Amari's voice echoed around the spacious room, his presence a magnetic force she couldn't ignore. He entered with purposeful strides, clad in a tailored black jacket. The fabric hugged his frame like a second skin, melding casual elegance with a hint of vicious intent. His eyes, pools of obsidian, held an intensity that sent shivers down her spine and made the storm outside feel like a mere whisper. I was thinking of taking a rain check, she quipped, tension weaving through her words in a breathless jest as she turned to face him. The faint scent of cedar and leather surrounded him, grounding her amidst swirling fears. Maybe just hide under the bed? How hard could this gangster life be without me, right? A sharp grin tugged at Akil's lips, light cutting through the stormy atmosphere. And let me face all of them alone? That'll be a sight. They'd ask me if I ran away with the circus. Bria chuckled, but the amusement crumbled as she drew closer, her thoughts shifting to the reality of their situation. It's not a joke, Akil. We're stepping into a war zone. The vulnerability edged into her voice, a silent plea for understanding, shimmering in the air between them. His expression grew serious, a flicker of warmth brushing against the steel of his resolve. We'll handle this together, like we promised. Akil moved closer, the storm outside crescendoing with wind now, the world outside a tempest, yet here they found a stillness. He reached out, gently tucking a stray curl behind her ear, his fingers lingering just a heartbeat longer than necessary. You're not alone. Just remember your strength. Bria inhaled sharply, their shared gaze holding an electric charge. My strength? You make it sound romantic. She smirked, her anxiety dissipating ever so slightly as she leaned into him. With a playful challenge in his eyes, Akil replied, Darling, everything feels a bit romantic when you're about to knock heads together. There's a certain elegance in chaos. The moment hung between them, charged and taut. Bria could feel the heat creeping up her cheeks, the air thickening with an intoxicating blend of longing and expectancy. She stepped closer, their bodies nearly touching, the world outside grotesquely alive while this bubble pulsed with tenderness. Shall we add a little more chaos, then? She whispered, meeting his gaze with audacity. Akil laughed, a low, rumbling sound. I can think of a few ways to create a delightful distraction. Without any forethought, Bria reached for his collar, her fingers brushing the fabric, and leaned in, seeking the solace of his warmth, feeling the world tilt. It was a simple act, yet fraught with the weight of everything unsaid and unresolved. Akil's hand slid to her waist, pulling her closer still, their foreheads touching. Just promise me you won't lose yourself, he murmured, sincerity coloring his voice. I can't bear the thought. I promise, she breathed, emotions swelling like the dark clouds ready to burst. Bria felt his breath both soothing and igniting, lingering just a whisper away from her lips. As the storm raged outside, their hearts thundered in tandem, and the chaos encased them in an exquisite cocoon, shielding them from the impending confrontation. Yet the moment felt fragile. We need to stay focused, Akil. The moment is about to change, she reminded him, the words bittersweet as they weighed their impending battle against the sacred moments they managed to steal away. Guess we're both in a dangerous line of work, he mused with a lopsided smile, gently breaking the tension. And now we get to do it together. The intensity of their impending fight loomed larger, but so did the bond they shared, fierce enough to challenge destiny itself. Wind whipped against the windows, the city now shrouded in shadow as reality crashed around them like the storm that enveloped. The true battle awaited beyond the threshold. The final countdown had begun. Scene 99, Navigating Fire. The atmosphere in the dimly lit warehouse crackled with tension as Bria leaned against a cold steel beam, her heart racing. How much longer can we keep running, Akil? She asked, her voice thick with a cocktail of anxiety and challenge. Somewhere in the distance, the faint sound of footsteps echoed, their harsh rhythm underscoring the stakes of the moment. Akil stood a few feet away, his eyes scanning the shadows like a hawk. The dim light cast sharp angles across his face, revealing a determination that was both mesmerizing and terrifying. As long as it takes. We're not letting them take you, he replied, his tone firm yet laden with an undercurrent of fear that made him sound almost uncertain. Bria shifted, feeling the cool metal of the beam bite into her skin. You make it sound easy. We're not dealing with amateurs. The room felt heavier with secrets, and the words hung between them like unspoken confessions. He turned, his eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that made her breath hitch. I won't let anything happen to you. Not again. For a split second, vulnerability seeped through his confident facade, revealing the depth of his concern. Bria nearly stepped closer, drawn in by the honesty in his gaze, but the echo of impending danger kept her anchored. Before she could respond, the sudden crash of a door reverberated throughout the open space, slicing through their moment. Akil's instincts kicked in. "Get behind me!" His voice took command, and Bria found herself instinctively moving back as he advanced. Out from the shadows emerged a group of armed men, their faces concealed beneath dark masks. Laughter erupted, a mocking sound that made the hairs on Bria's arms stand on end. "Thought you could hide forever, Akil," one of them jeered, holding a gun lazily at his side, the threat palpable. Akil's stance shifted, radiating a calm rage. "You don't know what you're stepping into," he warned, yet there was a flicker of defiance in his tone. That hint of a challenge made Bria's heart race, not with fear, but with a rush of adrenaline she hadn't expected. "Yeah? Or maybe you don't know what's about to happen," another voice sneered, stepping from the shadows. Mason, their most relentless pursuer. Bria remembered him well, the way he'd taunted them both from the moment they'd stepped into this chaotic world. Then Mason locked eyes with Bria, a smirk playing across his lips. "You've always had a thing for the bad boys, haven't you?" Bria's body went rigid. "I'm not the one hiding behind goons, Mason. At least Akil fights his battles." This retort bounced off the walls, echoing defiantly into the charged air. "You naive little girl," Mason shot back, a bitter laugh escaping him. "You have no idea what you're involved in." Akil glanced at her, his expression a mixture of anger and unspoken fears, but it was Bria who pushed forward. "And yet here we are, you seeking to intimidate two people who refuse to back down." As if to punctuate her words, one of the masked men took a step forward, brandishing a weapon. Bria's stomach dropped, but Akil's composure never wavered. "Run," he shouted abruptly, launching himself toward the nearest opponent. Bria didn't need to be told twice. She dashed to the left, her heart pounding wildly against her ribcage. The chaos erupted as gunshots rang out, an explosion of adrenaline and uncertainty swirling around them like a tempest. Amidst the cacophony, Akil grappled with one of Mason's men, his movements fluid yet powerful. Bria ducked behind a stack of crates, the scent of wood mingling with the metallic tang of adrenaline in the air. Peering around the corner, she caught sight of Akil struggling, his strong form combining grace with ferocity. But the numbers were against him. "Mason thinks he has all the pieces," Akil yelled, voice straining under the weight of his exertion. "But he never counted on us." With a surge of determination, Bria searched for a way to help. They were both playing chess in a game riddled with bullets, but desperation fueled her resolve. She spotted a metal pipe and, in a swift motion, clutched it, her breath hitching at the wild stir of defiance coursing through her. Akil caught her eye across the expanse of chaos, and for a moment, time stilled. The world narrowed. He needed her, and she needed him. No longer just terrified lovers, they were united in a fierce choreography of survival. "Together," Akil called out, his voice cutting through the chaos. Bria nodded, feeling the weight of her decision settle over her. They were more than just survivors, they were participants in this perilous dance. Clenching the pipe, she took a deep breath as she surged forward into the fray, ready to carve their way out of the fire together. Scene 100 unraveled threads. The air crackled as thunder rumbled overhead, dark clouds racing across the sky, mirroring the tempest that had descended upon Bria and Akil. They stood in a plush suite at the top of the Amari building, a luxurious hideaway that now felt more like a cage. Bria crossed her arms tightly, fingers gripping her elbow as if shielding herself from the storm brewing in her heart. "Did you ever think to tell me?" Her voice trembled slightly, yet a determined edge held firm beneath the surface. She was dressed in a crisp white shirt that accentuated her confidence, yet her eyes seemed weary, betraying her usually steadfast demeanor. "What was I supposed to say, Bria?" Akil replied, his voice deceptively calm, yet the intensity in his gaze bore the weight of 1,000 unspoken truths. He paced the room, hands shoved deep in his pockets, the mood shifting as the wind howled outside, rattling the windows. "Hey, by the way, I'm the mastermind behind the job that jump-started your entire career." The fabric of the moment felt charged, fraying at the edges. Bria could taste the bitterness of betrayal on her tongue, mixed with the sweet thrill of their initial connection. "You made me your pawn, Akil. You never thought about what that would mean for me?" "It was never just about you or me," Akil snapped, stepping closer, his breath a mix of desperate frustration and lingering warmth. It was about survival. This world, you know it's ruthless. You can't be naive. Naive? Bria echoed, anger flaring like static electricity. The room felt smaller, and the impending rain seemed to beat against the windows, resonating with their internal chaos. You used me like a tool. I trusted you. Trust? Akil's voice dropped, laced with a quiet intensity that sent shivers down her spine. You want trust? Look around. Trust is a luxury in this game. He gestured to the city visible from the window, its skyline shifting ominously under the gathering clouds. You think just because I'm charming, everything's easy? I'm in deeper than you can imagine. Bria's heart raced, a mix of fear and fascination gripping her. What does that even mean? What are you involved in? She edged toward him, urgency twisting in her stomach, seeking both answers and connection. Akil halted, his breath shaky, vulnerability flashing across his face. You wouldn't want to know. It could ruin you. Moving closer, Bria pulled him into her orbit, the tension between them swirling like the tempest outside. I'm already in it, Akil. What you tell me won't change that. Her voice softened, growing less confrontational, more pleading. I can handle the truth. I need to know. For better or worse, he murmured, his gaze now steady upon her, layers of resolve veiling his own uncertainties. You really want to dive into this mess? Bria held his stare, the sincerity reflected in her eyes igniting a flicker of hope among the chaos. Please, I deserve that much. The storm outside intensified, rain slashing against the windows, echoing the tumult of their own emotional landscape. Akil's stance shifted, and in a moment heated by confession and danger, he reached for her, fingers lightly brushing her arm, a tentative promise amidst the unresolved tension. Before he could pull away, Bria caught his hand. I'm right here with you, Akil. Whatever comes next, I want it all. Her words hung like an unbreakable bond, two souls entangled in the midst of a brewing storm. Then you need to be prepared, he whispered, the sincerity in his tone, both a warning and a seduction, a dance on the precipice of desire and desperation. In this world, trust is a dangerous game, and we play for keeps. Their intimate gaze held for a heartbeat longer, the world around them fading as the sound of thunder morphed into an intimate rhythm, a percussive backdrop to the wild emotions flaring between them. Bria leaned closer, warmth radiating as she spoke low, dangerously close now. Then let's face it together. With that, they sealed their silent pact in a moment electrified with uncertain promise, the storm outside howling in both fury and solidarity with the heat of their connection. The unraveling had begun, and neither of them could take back the threads they had pulled free. Scene 101. Fateful Decisions. The storm raged outside, rain lashing against the vast windows of the warehouse, illuminating the room with fleeting flashes of lightning. Akil Amari stood by the edge of a metal table, his arms crossed, jaw clenched in an intimate battle with his thoughts. The taste of betrayal lingered on his tongue, sharp like the metallic tang of blood. He had just orchestrated the most significant gamble of his life, and as powerful emotions surged through him, he contemplated the implications. Across the room, Bria Finch paced. The way she moved betrayed her inner turmoil. Each step was precise, but marred by a tension that crackled like the storm outside. Akil, she finally said, her voice steady despite the growing tempest around them. You've known all along, haven't you, about me? He turned to her, a fleeting flicker of remorse in his eyes. Bria, it was never supposed to go this far. She halted, the weight of his words crushing against her chest. And yet here I am, caught in this web. You say you care, but your actions tell a different story. Her hands trembled, a mix of fury and fear mingling as she caught his gaze. Was I just a pawn? In that moment, the air thickened with unspoken truths. Akil stepped closer, allowing the tension between them to swell. You don't understand. Every step I took was to protect you. Her laugh was bitter, echoing off the cold, concrete walls. Protect me or control me? Before he could answer, the door slammed open, disrupting their charged exchange. A group of Akil's associates stumbled in, soaked and wild-eyed, the storm's fury mirrored in their frantic energy. Boss, one of them barked, urgency lacing his tone. We have a situation. Rival syndicates don't take kindly to us invading their territory. I can handle them, Akil snapped, brushing past Bria, who watched him struggle between duty and desire. The brief interruption felt like a knife to her heart. She followed him, barely able to contain the whirlwind of emotions inside her. Akil, Bria called, her voice rising above the chaos. You can't just walk away from this. We need to talk. But his focus was directed toward the storm of trouble brewing outside. Ignoring her plea, Akil barked orders, gesturing toward the others. Get the exit secured. We can't let them pin us here. The room pulsed with burgeoning tension, the air crackling not only with anticipation, but a deeper, more intimate discord blossoming between them. Can't you see? She implored, stepping directly into his path. This is about us. You're not just my partner in this mess. You're my responsibility. He cut in, his voice tumbling with an intensity that silenced the room, if only for a moment. If I had to choose between your safety and my heart, it's not a choice at all. That's where you're wrong, Bria whispered, desperation lining her words. Everyone else's lives hang in the balance, including yours. Why can't you just trust that? Before he could respond, the rattle of gunfire echoed outside, shrill and terrifying. Adrenaline surged, and the group jumped into action. Akil and his team scrambled for cover, instinctively positioning themselves for the ambush, while Bria hung back, caught between the fray and the undeniable pull she felt toward him. Akil, look at me, she commanded, her voice slicing through the cacophony. He turned, and for a moment, amidst the chaos, his expression softened, their eyes locked, brimming with desire and desperation. Time slowed, the tension unfurling like the storm outside, heavy with unspoken emotion. Taking a daring step forward, Bria reached for him, the world around them dimming. Just a moment, she pleaded, breaths mingling in the charged space between them. Their bodies nearly touched, an electric current drawing them closer. We survive this, we figure it out together. His heart raced, each throb resonating in rhythms that mirrored the rain pounding against the metal roof. Bria, he began, but she silenced him with a single urgent kiss-off yet fierce, a tempest in its own right. Warmth flooded between them, igniting a passion that had laid dormant for so long. As the kiss deepened, the chaos faded, leaving only the two of them in a fragile bubble suspended in the storm. When they finally pulled apart, their foreheads resting against each other, reality rushed back in. What now? Bria breathed, searching his face. Before he could reply, the sound of shattering glass echoed from the entrance, and instinct kicked in. Akil's expression hardened. We fight. And so fate decided, one way or another, this would be the night that changed everything. Scene 102. Survival Instincts. The storm thrashed against the windows of the abandoned warehouse, the air thick with tension and the scent of rain soaked concrete. Bria Finch stood, her heart a tumultuous beat in her chest as adrenaline surged through her veins. Shadows flickered, and the silence seemed pregnant with potential calamity. She thought of everything at stake. Akil, their newfound connection, the life they were beginning to build. In this moment, she had to be more than just a victim of circumstance. Stay low, she whispered to Akil, her voice steady, a command forged by both fear and determination. The flicker of concern in his typically playful eyes told her he understood. I know you're tough, Bria, but this, Akil began, but she cut him off intentionally, her gaze sharp as glass. No arguing, just trust me. Bria eyed the narrow opening leading to the back where they had heard rumblings moments before, the latent chaos preparing to unfurl. She remembered lessons learned from her father, a survivalist at heart. Focus on your instincts. Trust your training. As if summoned by the storm itself, the sound of footsteps shattered the silence. Akil flexed his fists, ready to fight, but Bria gestured him back with a subtle arch of her brow. I have a plan. A group of men skulked toward the entrance, sleek silhouettes barely illuminated by sporadic lightning through cracked panes. The warehouse was their battlefield, but confidence surged through Bria, illuminating an inner strength. She could take charge. She had to. Meanwhile, across the way, Larissa and Jamal were caught in the crossfire of their own bout. Larissa, arms crossed defiantly, challenged Jamal's playfulness. Honestly, you think this is a game? This is life or death. Her hands trembled slightly, and she bit back the fear rising in her throat. Jamal, leaning against a rusty beam, flashed a roguish grin. If we survive this, all you'll have to do is keep your hands steady with cards. I've seen worse poker faces in daycare. Bria's lips quirked momentarily during the chaos, the levity a fleeting balm amidst the tempest. Then a loud crash echoed, drawing the duo's attention back to Bria's immediate danger. The silence was broken by clashing boots and the guttural command of a rival gang leader. "Search the place!" Bria's mind raced. She motioned to Akil, who nodded with an undeniable mix of admiration and resolve. They crept toward the darkness, shadows blending with shadows, while Bria's hand reached for a makeshift weapon, a rusty pipe conveniently strewn across the ground. Together, they moved in unison, instinctively synchronized as they leaned into the cargo crates for cover. From their vantage point, they spied the hostile intruders examining their surroundings. Heart pounding like a drum match for the thunder outside, Bria turned and whispered, "On three." As the tension mounted, they inhaled together, both bracing for impact, their resolve electrified by proximity. 1, 2, 3. Bria lunged out from her cover, pipe swinging, making contact with the nearest attacker. He crumpled against the floor, surprise etched on his face as Akil joined her, striking another goon with a powerful kick that sent him sprawling. Amid the echoes of flesh meeting flesh, the chaos amplified. Larissa and Jamal sprinted into action, supporting Bria and Akil. "How do you like my poker face now?" Jamal yelled, landing a decisive blow that sent his opponent crashing into a wall. "It's improved," Larissa shot back, hefting up her purse, which apparently contained more than just makeup, as she swung it like a wrecking ball at a third assailant, catching him off guard. A cacophony of noise surrounded them. Shouts, the metallic clang of stolen goods bashing about, and the chilling laughter of those who sought power through intimidation. Caught in a frenzy, Bria felt Akil's hand find hers, firm and electric. They exchanged glances that said more than mere words could hope to in the midst of the melee. Together, they were a force. "Stick together," Bria shouted, breathless yet fierce, as they fought their way through, each blow igniting a fire within them. The storm continued its fury outside, but in this moment, they were more than mere survivors. They were warriors fighting for love, loyalty, and a future no one could strip away. As the tide began to turn, Bria caught her breath for a moment, just a fleeting second, and met Akil's eyes. Hope surged between them, so mighty and consuming. "We will get through this," she vowed softly, though her heart fluttered with a thrilling mix of fear and exhilaration. "Together," Akil replied, his grip tightening around her, the promise palpable as the storm raged on. The battle may have begun, but the war for their hearts, futures, and survival had only just ignited. Scene 103. The heart of the storm. The storm unleashed its fury against the city, heavy raindrops crashing onto the pavement like an army marching to battle. The relentless wind howled through the streets of New Orleans, bending trees to its will and swirling leaves into a frenzied dance of nature's chaos. Akil Amari stood on the edge of the rooftop, the cold droplets soaking through his shirt, mingling with the adrenaline coursing through his veins. His dark eyes scanned the surroundings, alert as ever, but behind that sharp focus lay a tumult of emotions, fear, longing, and an ache that spoke to the heart of his guarded nature. Bria Finch emerged from the stairwell, breathless and wrapped in a soaked leather jacket, cutting through the gloom with her defiance. The air hummed with a tension of its own, charged as much by the storm as by the battle they had narrowly escaped. She caught Akil's gaze, a flicker of vulnerability momentarily breaking through her fierce demeanor. "Do you ever think this is all a bit much?" Bria shouted over the deafening sound of the rain, a sardonic smile playing on her lips. Like, who would have thought we'd be running from gunfire instead of just securing a deal? Akil let out a low chuckle, shaking his head. "I thought I told you, nothing about this life is straightforward. You should know by now that a straightforward day is just a setup for a worse one." They stood close, the distance between them filled with heat despite the chill in the air, a magnetic force echoing in the spaces that had worn their emotional walls thin. Waves of storm energy pulsed around them, mirroring the tension building in the thin air as they both grappled with their burgeoning feelings. Right, because running from a crime syndicate is somehow better than a board meeting. She rolled her eyes, but the playful sarcasm was cut through with an edged sincerity she couldn't hide. "But sometimes, Akil, I wonder if we're both just fooling ourselves." Akil stepped closer, his voice dropping into a rough whisper. "Maybe we're just trying to survive, Bria." He reached out, brushing a lock of wet hair from her forehead, his fingers lingering, igniting sparks against her skin. But survival doesn't mean pushing each other away. Bria's heart raced at the intimacy that lingered in their shared space, the honesty of his words igniting a flickering flame of hope and fear within her. "You don't know my past. I can't just—" "Stop," he interrupted, cutting through her fears with the weight of his gaze. "Everyone has a past, but it's about what we choose to do now, together." A deafening crack of thunder roared overhead, as if nature itself was urging them toward clarity. In that electrifying moment, time suspended, a breathless pause before a leap. Bria stepped forward, the rain cascading off her jacket, leaving beads glistening on her skin like diamonds. "What if we fail?" "Then we fail together," he replied, his voice a soothing promise that enveloped her heart. The air thickened, pulse quickening, and suddenly the distance evaporated. Akil leaned in, capturing her lips with his, mingling storm and fire in a kiss that felt like both an affirmation and a risk, the balm for their wounds, a promise that spoke louder than words. In that breath, in that heartbeat, was everything they were still afraid to voice. It was a surrender, an acceptance of what lay ahead in the chaos that accompanied their lives. The kiss deepened, slow and fervent, the storm above echoing their tumultuous hearts, pushing against the chaotic fervor of their world as they lost themselves in one another. As they parted, breathless and wide-eyed in the face of the tempest, Brea laid a hand against his chest, feeling the rapid beat of his heart against her palm. "So this is it?" she asked, a whisper lost in the watercolor symphony of rain and thunder. "We're really doing this?" "Whatever this is," he murmured, his forehead resting against hers as the rain continued to pour. "I'll face it with you." The clouds above rumbled affirmatively, and for the first time, in a world fraught with uncertainty, the weight of the storm felt lighter, as if fate had momentarily shifted in their favor. Scene 104 shattered trust. Framed by the dim glow of flickering candles, Bria paced the hardwood floors of Akil's penthouse. Her heart drummed a feverish beat, echoing the doubts swirling in her mind. Shadows danced on the walls, casting fleeting images of their past, laughter shared, tender moments stolen, now enveloped in a thick fog of uncertainty. An overwhelming sense of urgency prickled her skin. She felt both invincible and fragile, the duality striking her in tumultuous waves. A sudden crash broke the silence as Akil slammed the door behind him, his brow furrowed and body tense with unspent energy. The air coiled tight between them, heavy with unspoken truths and the electric tension of betrayal. "What happened?" Bria asked, her voice steady, but her insides twisted like a tightly held knot. He closed the distance, invading her space with a chiseled determination that reminded her of steel against silk. "I heard things. About you, about me, about everything." His gaze swept across her face, searching. "You can't keep burying this. Not with them after us." "Who did you hear it from?" She shot back, a shard of steel in her tone betraying her vulnerability. Alarms blared in her mind. Was this about to unravel everything they had built? "People," he replied, jaw clenched, muscles straining under the weight of hidden emotions. Each word dripped with unuttered accusations and a smoldering resentment that mirrored her own unease. "Did you think I wouldn't find out? What do you want me to say, Akil? That I'm not the one in control here? That I'm terrified?" Her voice cracked, the revelation of her fear slicing the silence. He hesitated, body taut before stepping closer, straining against the gravity pulling them apart. "I want you to be honest with me." Brea felt the words like a physical blow. Years of rebuilding her life, bricks painstakingly laid, could all come tumbling down in one careless moment. "Honesty doesn't seem to matter if I can't believe a word from either of us." Akil, caught in the pulsation of their conflict, took a breath, the tension radiating off him palpable. A flicker of confusion flashed behind his eyes, then he lunged forward, his hands finding her arms, gripping just enough to steady her trembling resolve. "This isn't just about us. They're coming for both of us." "I know," she cried, her voice rising, hands balling into fists at her sides. "I'm terrified, but I can't stand here and pretend that nothing's wrong between us. You've hidden things as much as I have, Akil. Then let's expose it all," he yelled back, the heat of his voice wrapping around her like a fiery embrace. As the world outside raged on, the sound of distant sirens and the murmur of chaos in the streets, they were drawn into each other's orbit, caught in an unyielding current. Uncertainty painted every stroke of their emotions, creating a canvas fraught with vulnerability. Each breath taken felt like a negotiation, a promise they dared not break. Their eyes locked, and in that breath of silence, everything shifted. Akil leaned closer, the scent of cedarwood and danger wrapping around her senses like an intimate whisper. Together, he promised, his voice low, as if the world outside could not be permitted to hear. I want us to face this, whatever it costs. The space between them tightened in a way that felt inevitable. Bria shuddered at the pull of his magnetism, her pulse quickening. She craved his touch, warmth spilling into the cracks of her uncertainty. With a breathless notion, she closed the gap, their lips brushing, igniting the air thick with unresolved questions and longing. At first, it was tentative, the dance of trust and distrust layered in the sensation. But just as she surrendered, Akil deepened the kiss, his hand moving to cradle the back of her neck, fingers threading through her hair as she melted against him. There was urgency in the passion, but in this moment, their fears eased, their shadows entwined in the glow of each other's light. And then, as if the world had caught up with reality, the sirens grew louder, reminding them of the storm still brewing outside, one that no kiss could escape.